Hey, what's up investors? My name is Devin Moreno and today I'm going to be showing you this flip that I worked on. I'm going to be showing you the tactical tips on why I made the renovation the way that I did. We're talking layout, the function, and design, but most importantly, the fact that not only do I have to design it as a flip, but I have to design it as a rent by the room style house as well. So many of you might be wondering why. For those of you who don't know, I specialize in rent by the room style housing, but the beautiful part about that is it allows me to hold any house. See, normally with a single family home, this wouldn't make enough money to actually support me keeping it as a buy and hold and renting it to a family. Not to mention the elements of kids and pets and such may destroy this house over time. Instead, I do rent by the room where I rent it to young professionals or grown adults, generally aged 25 to 45, who keep this house in mint condition. So maybe, let's say if it doesn't flip in the initial, then I can sell it a year down the road and it's not a problem. Everyone's in a room, it's easily to transition them from house to house. So I'm gonna talk about my design tips on how I did it for both methods, the flip and the rooming house, with a focus on the flip because that's what this house is intended to be. So let's talk about function, the layout, and purpose. So going over all the aesthetics, something that may be fairly irrelevant to many of you, but I use these white walls. I purposely use that because in staging and in also most pictures and such, it translates very easily to the most likable color, I guess you can say. I mean, a lot of people are using gray nowadays. Gray is phasing out. Then they might use some other color that's phasing out. I just prefer to stick with white, and I purposely use an alabaster white so that way it is the most neutral white, the most neutral as far as warm and cool colors. And I didn't want the environment to look too sterile. Hence, that's the color paint I'm using in all of my flips, okay? So I have one template that I use on literally every single flip. So if you want that template, just email me and I can give that to you. We also have it available on our website. But also as far as these floors, I'm gonna show you why later I chose to use these floors. These floors actually saved me money and I do intend to use them in future projects, especially around here in the Baltimore area, mainly because of the trim of the windows, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But these floors are LVP, so luxury vinyl plank. I use them primarily to make sure it is the most resistant for my rooming houses as well. So not only does it look good for a flip, but for a rooming house, these things withstand everything. So talking about the kitchen design that I did, the only thing I wouldn't normally do in a rooming house is this dishwasher. I feel like for a flip, I've gotta have it. But for a rooming house, I will turn this into a glorified dish rack and I will let them know, hey, this doesn't work for any other purpose than just a dish rack. All right, perfect, it's here. So other stuff is pretty standard as far as a stove. Backsplash, I usually will put in the houses if I'm flipping it. I often find for such a small price, it does add a quality difference. So I go ahead and do that. As far as the countertops, this is a quartz. I usually tend to use quartz mostly because it complements the white of my houses that I generally do. However, if you use granite, I'm pretty sure that most of it will be just fine. There's no functional difference between quartz and granite from the investor standpoint. Granite's probably gonna be a little bit cheaper at like $45 a square foot, whereas this more like $50, $55 a square foot, kind of that general price range. But that's what I use. It's not enough to make me swing one way or another. The cabinets are all simple design, shaker cabinets. We use ones from Current Cabinetry, which is a company out here that we buy from all the time. I'm not affiliated with them, but essentially they're the ones we usually go to. Outside of that, we always choose nickel. So all of our finishings are all nickel. That's to make it timeless. If I want to hold it long term for any reason, then I need to sell it in the future and I don't know what the design trends and all that is gonna be. So with white walls, nickel finishes, I'm pretty safe from any changes in the marketplace. So that is the overall design perspective of this. You'll notice we kept a lot of these windows, trying to bring in as much natural light as possible. When we designed the kitchen, we actually kept the sink toward the windows. We always usually make sure to do that. That's kind of like the most visually appealing look, but a lot of people do enjoy looking out the windows as you wash dishes. For here, we chose not to do a microwave above because then we would have had to fill the rest of this with cabinets. The cabinets were already starting to get pretty expensive, so we decided to save money by doing shelving, which these, by the way, are just wood shelves that we just cut. So don't buy like the decorative ones from Home Depot. These are actually solid wood. And then we pretty much just put one of these hood vents that we just ran up and make it look natural into a finish there. So that saves us money on this design because for the most part, when we're going through this side of the house, each cabinet's gonna be like $300 a cabinet. Also, if you're wondering, we ended up putting this pantry here. This is not something I usually do on my flips. We went ahead and tried it out. What we found is the price of doing something like this is about $800. Well, if we had done a base cabinet for $300, a wall cabinet for about $300, which is generally about the price of something this size, 30 inches, then we found with the fact that it doesn't need a granite countertop, which would have been about $200 for that surface area, plus the labor and all of that, it ended up being exactly the same price. So we felt like, okay, if it's the exact same price, we can elevate the look and feel of it a little bit by adding something like this, a pantry, in a house that, as you can see, has no pantry. So this is something we factored into our design as far as both the flip, but also the rooming house. With my rooming houses, I like to make sure that I have 2 cabinets per person in the house. So if I'm trying to restrict cost by taking away cabinets on one side, then I'm gonna need to make sure I maximize cabinets or storage space somewhere else. A pantry would do that. I always make sure that I have space for a fridge somewhere else. So for my rooming houses, I would put another second fridge here. I usually put 1 fridge per every 2 tenants. So that is something I factor into my design. So talking about light fixtures, this is part of the template that I had mentioned earlier. We chose one that would diffuse the light and make a really soft light. We felt like this would be the most kind of timeless design because I don't want to redesign my flips every single time. I would like something that just works in every single house. You could just use some basic nickel finishes though. This kind of thing is not necessary. We ended up just choosing something like this to not only diffuse the light, but to kind of make us unique in the marketplace. But ultimately, not really a big deal if you choose some basic nickel finishes. So outside of that, we have these wooden beams, which we just painted. We actually repaired them a little bit, just put some wood putty to make sure that they didn't look like they were foundational, structural that are cracking. They used to look like they were cracking over time. The other thing you'll note with these windows is the fact that they are wooden. So we could have painted these, but in order to preserve the character of the house, we actually went with this flooring, which we use in a majority of our houses on most of our templates. And then it matched pretty well with the wooden windows, which was something that many people commented was one of their favorite things about the house. Going from there, this right here is one of the harder designs that I had to do because this is the master bedroom. Now, as you can see, we're on the same floor as the kitchen. I would not normally recommend having a master suite on the same exact floor, but we had to do that. So what we wanted to do was turn it into a suite. We have a closet over here that I'll show you, a bedroom over here, and then a bathroom right here with a door that can close off the entire suite. Originally, this bathroom, I was thinking, why don't I demo this bathroom and make it a space that feels more like a suite? We had to do all this funky stuff with the doors because of the fact that we kept this bathroom here. But keeping this bathroom here saved so much money on the demo. If I can tell you anything, try to demo as little as possible as far as bathrooms or rooms. The more you start moving walls and moving things around, your costs are going to elevate tremendously. Outside of that, we ended up just pocketing enough space to get this toilet here, a sizable vanity here, and then a tub. We always make sure we have at least 1 tub in every house because a lot of families who have babies are looking for a tub in order to wash their babies in. So we always make sure, and preferably maybe in the master suite, that there is a tub available. We use smaller tile around here just to kind of offset it, make an accent. To be honest, future thought for me, I don't think I want to use a tile like this. Problem with little tiny tiles, you can work around spaces really well, but it's a lot more labor intensive to do all these tiny little tiles everywhere. This actually cost us way more than just getting a big 24 by 12 big tile and laying it in. So if I were to recommend to you what you should do, I would say I go this route every single time, but that's just me. So if going forward, probably not doing that even if it really looks nice, it just costs more. We always end up adding these niches or inserts, wall inserts, niches, however you want to say them. And here we put 2, but generally, traditionally, we'll often put 1. And this we make sure we always have just because in the bathroom, it's such an easy thing to create, especially if you're building the bathroom from scratch, but yet adds a whole nother dimension to the bathroom, a whole nother look. This is another space where we ended up just, creating shelving. This actually used to be all walled in. We opened it up and then created a pocket door here. So I use pocket doors only in these types of situations where I don't want to swing and a swing coming in this way, a swing door. It's going to be functionally just an absolute mess. So make sure when you're factoring these narrow spaces to mind the amount of doors that you have in the space. So I'm going to take you into the master bedroom, and the way we maximize this space is by not adding a closet. For a master suite, it's pretty small. So we wanted to make sure a closet was not in this room. So what we did was we made sure to put a closet on a complete other side. So there's a walk-in closet over here, and you'll be able to see we just ended up keeping the window within it to make it really illuminated and such. So these are some of the design decisions we did. Now, as far as a rooming house, all right, so I talked about a lot of this is on the flip side, okay? But as far as the rooming house side, this entire thing would just be rented and be probably sort of the money maker of the house. But if you have to have this for a flip, a master suite on the same level and where there's multiple other floors in Baltimore, then you probably want to make it as close as possible to this, a suite that looks kind of elevated from a typical bedroom. So with that being said, let me take you into the basement and talk about some other design decisions, and there we can get into more of the mechanicals. So let me take you there now. So here in the basement, you're gonna see where some of the bad design choices are. And sometimes it's things we can't control. So the guys who did the ductwork ended up just kind of running this bulkhead where you're seeing here that it's pretty low. And I'm only a guy who's 5'8", so I'm a pretty average height person, but unfortunately it's very low. So we had to kind of almost redesign this basement based on that. We also had to redesign it based on several different factors. So number one, behind you, we had an electric panel. So we had the electric panel that was over here, all right? So one corner. We have this door that's an egress, okay? So that's one corner. Then back there, and I'll show you it in a little bit, we had a furnace, and that's where all the gas lines, and also there was a sump pump there and such. Then we had a gas meter on this side, and then we had a water heater over here. And this was all an open basement. So you're seeing here in these photos that there's an open kind of concept to this entire basement. But now we're like, all right, well, we don't want to move this. We don't want to move the panel. We don't want to move gas meters. We don't want to move furnaces. So we're like, well, okay, we're stuck with this unusual situation where this house has to be chopped up in a lot of ways. And then our ductwork guys had the ducts going all the way across, as you saw. So this is the design that we came up with. So ultimately, we ended up making one bedroom here where we didn't have to get in the way of that water heater that we just saw. So you can now come into this space and very easily you can see it flows. We ended up tucking a staircase underneath. Basically, by doing that and having that window that you saw, we created a pretty functional bedroom. And then as we went through it, we're like, okay, how do we get another bedroom in here? Because in all of my flips, I need 5 bedrooms. Why 5? Because as I mentioned, I rent by the room. So I try to make sure the flip is catered to that rent by the room style design. So I figure, okay, for a family, they're probably gonna want a bathroom down here accessible to both bedrooms. So I created a bathroom. Here we have a bathroom that people can walk downstairs and use. So this also becomes the public bathroom for guests and such. So something we took into account. Also, we have a full shower in there because if we have a rooming house, we want the tenants who are down here to be able to shower. This area we left open. We purposely did that so. In a rooming house concept, this creates another eating area. So that way tenants don't have to eat with each other or right on top of each other. They have different areas that they can work. This also could be used as a desk space for if you have students or people who work from home, then they can bring that and work from home in this area where it's all carpeted. You'll notice even just in this video that the acoustics, the way it sounds is a lot better. So it doesn't echo as much. Now, obviously when the house is full of furniture, it won't echo as much anyway, but here in this carpeted area, it's gonna really hold that sound in a lot better. Now we used carpet in order to hide the imperfections in the floor. This was all concrete, but it was really uneven flooring. That's when we will not use luxury vinyl plank. That's because it's very hard to kind of fit it together and make it where it won't buckle and such. Carpet, much easier, just roll it in. So we had the furnace room in here, and then we have this room here. So this room, in the case of a flip, we just kept this open just as a rec room or such. Technically, this kind of loses value. I actually don't think I would do this in the future. I think I would just go ahead and build a wall here with a door that makes this a bedroom. Build a closet right in this space. The gas meter is hidden pretty much behind this. So that way, it is something that's kind of out of sight and out of mind. We made sure that we had windows in every single bedroom. But now this, for egress purposes, is not like the best form of egress. Of course, I would want a bigger window. But at least for natural lighting purposes, at least for escape purposes, that still works. Of course, we have a secondary entrance with the door in the exterior. We have this window, so there's lots of natural light. We made sure to keep every single window that we could. And there's another window that is in this bathroom. We still put an exhaust fan despite this window, but that exists as well. Basically, I think for future bathrooms, I mentioned earlier I wouldn't do the white tile. Here in the photos that we have this, this black tile. All of it is completely black, and that is the direction that we went. So that's gonna be how we do all of our bathrooms in the future, probably with this style design. But anyway, let me know in the comments section below if you have any questions about the way that I sort of design these. I'm going to do a lot of videos in the future about other houses that I will show you and say, hey, this is how I designed it. I'll show you other tips and tricks that show, okay, this is what I'm thinking when I go to flip it, and then also structure it for a buy and hold. So if you have any questions, comment below, and I'll talk to you all very soon.